All right, here we go. Finally get to do this presentation. This lecture, whatever you want to call it. It's very meaningful to me. Human sex trafficking. Something that's very serious, but obviously something that we don't talk enough about. Probably because the victims within it don't want to talk about it, and then the predators that are doing it are certainly not going to talk about it. So it's a subject that's kind of under the radar. I don't know, man. This is something that I've been passionate about for a long time, and I think it has everything to do with me growing up watching Law and Order, specifically SVU, right, the Special Victims Unit. It's really all about that. It's about catching predators, catching pedophiles, and just I guess trying to make the world a better place. Um, so this is something that I've been aware of for a long time. Here we go. The title of this presentation: Human Sex Trafficking, the Secret History of Immigration in the United States. Listen to me carefully. If if you have a passion for immigration, immigration policy, migration studies, if this is something that you're passionate about, I highly recommend you watch this. And to all my Mexican brother and sisters, I'm telling you, this is something you really want to watch, because there's an underlining reason to why some people want to be precautious with the borders, right? Um, it's not just about your tio or your primos trying to come over here to work, make money, and send it back to the family in Mexico. That's all gravy. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's not the only type of thing going on. So there's underlining things going on. And one of these things is human sex trafficking. To the cartel, to the mafia. Listen, man, I'm not trying to step on your toes. All right. I don't want no problems. Hold up. Let me make sure I make this clear. Um, just so they understand. Listen, I don't want no problems, man. Let me bring this back to me real quick. Listen, I don't want no problems. All right. What I'm talking about is a very serious issue. Serious, right? But you're gonna see as I go in this presentation, it's predominantly just the underage individuals that I can't take it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm passionate about. Is children being victimized. Now, in terms of like the whole sex work industry, this and that. Listen, man, I'm all for it. Like, go ahead and do what you want to do as consensual adults. I'm not trying to stop that grind. So I just want to make it clear. You know what I'm saying? Because these are some dangerous people. And me talking about this subject, I got to make sure that my language is right. So anything that's going on consensually, anything that's going on between adults, man, have at it. You dig what I'm saying? But it's these children that we really got to save, because there's a lot of victims, a lot of victims. And you don't know because they don't want to talk about it. I mean, why would they? That's something that's very personal, and I'm like embarrassing. So although it shouldn't be, but that's how they take it, right? So again, man, I'm the SVU specialist. You know what I'm saying? I think her name Mariska. Holla at me. You know what I'm saying? Let's see if we can get this collab going. But let me share my screen again. Here we go. So human sex trafficking, right? Let's nail it in. So the Mann Act of 1910. Listen, this is almost a damn near book review. This book right here. Hopefully you can see that in the corner. It's called Policing Sexuality, and it's by Jessica R. Pliley, right? Phenomenal author. She killed this book, and I mean that in a good way. She absolutely exposed the entire history of sex trafficking. It's not just something that started in 21st century. This thing goes back way, 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 way back, right? I mean, prostitution is one of the oldest professions. So most of us know that. So the Mann Act of 1910 is basically what the book is about. And so it's almost gonna be a book review. I just make sure I put a little spin on it, try to make it as lively as possible, right? So the Mann Act of 1910 is also known as the White Slavery Traffic Act. Basically, it was called that because, well, look at the date, right? This is 1910 that we're talking about. If you know anything about U.S. history in 1910, they didn't really give much of a fuck about Black people. It was no different with this trafficking shit, the sex trafficking shit. They didn't really care about Black women as much. And this is like, this is everything I'm saying is in this book. There is no cap in this presentation. You understand what I'm saying? There's no lies, no bullshit. It's all real. So, what is sex trafficking? Great question. Sex trafficking is the direct or indirect procuration and transportation for gain to a foreign country of women or girls for the sexual gratification of one or more other persons, right? So basically, sex trafficking is just you're transporting or transitioning or migrating people. Usually, it's not with their consent. Sometimes it is. Sometimes they just want to transition out of the situation that they're in, but most times it's not consensual, right? And so, especially if it's kids, it's just a no-no completely. So it's basically transferring human bodies from one to the next, right? Transatlantic slave trade, right? It's the same thing, just different concept, right? The Mann Act. What is the Mann Act? Why did they create the Mann Act? Well, it's a law that makes it illegal to transport or cause the transport of women over state lines for the purpose of prostitution, debauchery, or other immoral purposes. So, debauchery, that's something probably you don't know. Prostitution is probably plain and simple, right? It's basically women, specifically more cases than not, giving up their body for money or maybe other favors. Debauchery is basically defined as like just greed, like it's excessiveness, right? Like you can't get enough. I think the best way I could describe it, if you've seen the movie Taken, which hopefully you have. If you have, then you understand why I'm doing this. But the movie Taken, right? At the end, right, where Liam's daughter is about to go into the room with this like Persian looking motherfucker, all fat and shit. And he's like just laying on his bed, like naked and shit. Like he's just waiting. Like it's just greedy shit. Like you could tell he does it all the fucking time. It's gross, right? Pays hundreds of thousands of dollars to get 18-year-old. This is oil money. This is big timer money. That's why this is very important, right? So, that's what debauchery is. It's really just this greed shit. And then when it says or any other immoral purposes, that can go a long stretch, right? It can mean a lot of different things. You're transitioning this woman over to, I don't know, do sexual favors, to maybe like forced labor, right? It's basically saving white women specifically from harm, right? So that's what that is. That's what the Mann Act is. It's really just a law to combat sex trafficking. So what are the main points? Why is this important? CJ, why are you even talking about this? Like, what's the point? It's not that bad, right? It is. So the first point is, as I said, underage victims, right? I think there's a quote in the book I'll read in a bit, but you got children it can be as young as 13, 14, 15, sometimes even younger, right? This is no secret. Hopefully this is no secret. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about by now, right? So it's just plain and simple. You can't victimize these children, man, because they grow up to have a disturbed mind. And ultimately, I mean, it's just, they're fucked, right? Literally and figuratively, like their life is just, it's difficult. They start getting hooked on drugs, alcoholism. All of these things start to happen, right? And they start sex abusing children when they become adults. So it's like this, right? Like that's what happened to, I believe, R. Kelly, right? He was assaulted and then he started doing this shit, allegedly. And I'm not like letting him off the hook. I'm just letting you know what the deal is. This is why we have to correct this shit, because he was a victim and it's just in his brain to do the same. And it's not okay. So that's number one. Number two, very important, man. And this is probably the main reason why the government's tripping, is untaxed capital. This is straight. Usually this is a cash business, So it's hand to hand, under the table, cash to cash. There is no tax. And the government's not flying with that. That's one of the reasons why they're serious about this border shit. It's just not okay. Listen, I just paid my state tax. For some odd reason, I owed like a couple of, I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, small amount. I'm like, damn, I gotta pay taxes. So if I gotta pay taxes, yo ass gotta pay taxes. All right. I don't give a damn what profession it is. You gotta pay taxes. Period. And number three, extremely important, venereal diseases. The the practices that are going on, and again, I'm gonna read a quote from the book. You might see, you might not, but basically, I'll tell you now. There was a part in the book where it talked about in Texas, from the border of Mexico, right? Mexican prostitutes, United States troops, approximately 30% of United States troops. I believe this is San Antonio, right? You know, there's a base out there. 30% of troops at one point had venereal diseases. Bruh, that's not good for our military. That's not good for our country. That's not good for anyone, right? And then you bring it back home to your wife, right? And so it just spreads. So there's a number of reasons. I'm not a huge fan of the United States government, but this is one concept I fully understand completely. This is one of the great things that I've actually seen the federal government do is try and protect United States citizens from these three components. Yeah. So that's why this is important. It's extremely important. Let's keep moving. So let's start with the 19th century, right? Otherwise known as the 1800s. Mexicans, all right, and everybody else. This is why this is important. The Immigration Bureau is in charge or was in charge of the first cases of sex trafficking. So, you know, sex trafficking in the United States has been publicly investigated as early as the 1830s, right? We're talking about border crossing. So the Immigration Bureau, it makes sense that they would be the ones investigating. It's important. So that's why I say when you're passionate about immigration and you're like, yeah, let everybody in, da da da. Hold your horses. Let's hold up, right? Because we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of victims being crossing this border, and I'll get into all that, right? So, as I said, sex trafficking is an international enterprise, right? And so, let me see, in charge of investigating human sex trafficking. I already said that, right? So that's why immigration is an important concept, and you can't be so lightly, right? Again, of course, you got, like I said, your hermosa, right? Hermosos and tios and primos and everybody else coming in here to work and make that dollar to send it back to the family. There's no problem with that. I got no problem with that. But at the same time, as they're coming in, you got victims coming in that are going to be doing sex work and just completely wrecking their lives, right? So here's just a quote just to give you evidence that the Immigration Bureau was in charge of this, and it's an important concept. Where the commission differed from previous Immigration Bureau investigations was it identified white slavery as a primarily Jewish phenomenon, specifically pointing to the cases where Jewish men were found to be pimps or procurers. Yes, that's right. It's in the book. You can read it yourself. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not punching Jews in the face. I'm not doing none of that. I'm just reading what's in this book. And she got notes all in the mother. You can double check her work if you want. But I'm telling you, Jessica's sharp as hell. She did her thing. So, matter of fact, let me see if I can read something to you. There we go. The term white slavery first appeared in conjunction with prostitution in the 1830s when a London doctor wrote about Jewish pimps as white slave dealers who trepanned, I don't know what that word is, who trepanned young girls in their dens of iniquity. Iniquity. I'm not going to read any further. It's just a sentence that I wanted to read. Yeah. So it's just evidence that Jews since the 1830s, right? And of course, before we just no evidence in here, but you could find another book. They were in charge of bringing prostitutes. So all this shit you see with Magic Dawn and this and that, you want to blame black people for doing this? That's not the case. We were not. We are a small portion. So let me get to this next page. So, newspapers reported that the Dufours, which is, I think it's a Frenchman, purchased girls for as little as $15 and later sold them to other brothels for between $150 and $500. The proceeds from their trafficking and brothel earned the Dufours as much as $200,000 in 1907. 200,000. This is not adjusted to inflation. So that's 200,000. This is the shit that I'm talking about when it comes to untaxed dollars. That can't fly, right? So as a result of the raids, newspapers speculated that over 2,000 French prostitutes faced deportation, a gross exaggeration. That's what I'm talking about. The untaxed dollars, I'll get to the underage girls. But do you understand the concept of Immigration Bureau and their investigation within this and why this is important even for today? I hope this makes sense. So think twice before just, let everybody in, open up the borders. Everybody can be, come to the United States. They can't fly. You see what's been going on for the last 200 years. We're in 2021. It's hard to think that we're that far ahead. We're almost 200 years past the first publication of sex trafficking, which was 1830, right? Let's keep pushing. So the Federal Bureau of Investigation, right? We're getting into the 20th century now. This is the FBI. A major reason the FBI commission was created was to investigate international and domestic sex trafficking. Now, this isn't the only reason why they were created, but I believe approximately in 1911, 1912, around that time, the FBI was created. And the predominant reason was for sex trafficking. That's how huge this was. You just heard me talk about 2,000 French women, right? That's just French women. That's just that time frame. We're not even talking about. We're going to get into it. That's why I got Mexican, Chinese, Jews. I got all that. So I'm going to crack this book. I'm going to read you a couple of things. I could have took pictures and whatnot, but I'll read it to you. You could play it back, and I'll make sure that I read at the best of my ability. Stop tripping. While British activists worried about the fate of white slaves in London and European brothels, some American purity activists fretted over the fate of yellow slaves entrapped in San Francisco and other Western city brothels and cribs, tiny shacks that offered little protection or comfort from the elements. Discourses of slavery strongly figured in discussions of Chinese prostitution and arguments for Chinese exclusion, and they would continually reappear in social purity publications and newspapers from the 1870s through the early 1900s. So when you talk about the Chinese Exclusion Act, right, and we got a lot of Asian hate thing going on. I'm reading the book. This isn't Asian hate. I'm just reading the book. When you talk about the Chinese Exclusion Act, you see why they did it. The book talks about they still let Chinese students in. They let Chinese professionals in, doctors, engineers, that kind of gig. They let these people in, but they banned a lot of Chinese that were, if you want to say quote unquote, not up to shit, not doing shit, and just coming in here. Watch this shit. I got some more. You want to hear some more? Watch this. Here we go. The immigration of Chinese men seeking riches and employment in American West produced one of the most glaring sex imbalances among any immigrant group in the 19th century. These motherfuckers were immoral. Remember the word immoral purposes? They were immoral. Check this. Listen. The few Chinese women in the American West worked primarily as prostitutes. In 1860, some 85% of the Chinese female population, a population of only 654 women, served as sex workers. In 1870, that number had dropped to 71% of the 2018 women living in San Francisco. We're gonna get to that in a minute. San Francisco and the Chinese. Let me keep going because I gotta call all of you out, right? Or not all of you, but just call the people that I've listed, right? So I've called out the Jews. I've called out the Chinese. Let me see if I can find that quote by the Mexicans, or maybe I'll just, I don't know what page 45 is. Let's see. I can't remember. Right? Let me make sure that my Mexican brothers and sisters get this. All right? Listen to this. As for prostitution, town after town was enlarging its facilities to meet the military demand. Furthermore, the vice conditions Fosdick found, which was like a researcher, he was an investigator, Fosdick found along the US-Mexican border led to high rates of venereal disease infection among soldiers stationed there. For example, in San Antonio, almost 30% of the troops reported infection. Almost 30%. We're talking about almost 1 in 3 troops were being infected. How is this gonna fly when your military is ridden with diseases? And now these same military men are gonna go back to their wives, right? They're gonna go back to their wives and spread the diseases. This is why this was important. This is why you need an entire commission known as the FBI to penetrate this situation. I don't mean that physically, right? So I just exposed all that. I just exposed the Chinese, all that. I swear there was something else. I swear there was something else about the Chinese, but honestly, I think I read enough. I mean, we're talking about 80% of the first set of Chinese women coming up in here being prostitutes. Man, here we go. So, sex trafficking today, right? Sex trafficking today. Here are the list, the catalysts that I drew up. Yes? Follow me. European Jews. I just read how they were pretty much the phenomenon in the 1830s. And trust me, the shit hasn't stopped. Don't get the shit twisted. It has not stopped. How do I know? There's a guy named Jeffrey Epstein who supposedly and allegedly killed himself. He was a bona fide Jew. There is no argument. This is not an attack on Jews. I'm just giving you the evidence that you all ignore. He was a European Jew touching on underage girls. Follow me now, okay? Because I told this is a list. I listed it like this for a reason, from top to bottom. It's like this for a reason. Follow me. Catholics and Vatican City, right? Including Italian brothels, Catholic Church accusations. Let me read this page. Let me get to it. Where should I start? Let's do it. As the Prohibition era came to a close in 1933, organized crime lords in New York City eagerly looked elsewhere to replace their lost liquor proceeds, and their eyes or at least the eyes of reigning gangsters like Dutch Schultz and Lucky Luciano, fell on the active call house trade in New York City. Luciano offered madams protection in exchange for a cut of the madam's profits. I could go on, but you get the point. Luciano, Lucky Luciano. All right, all I need you to do is look him up. He's Italian, bro. And the shit has not stopped. Italians got brothels all over the cut. Actually, I was talking to a homeboy. He's in Vegas right now. He was talking about how the shit was owned by Italians. One of the brothels out there. I don't think he went. I didn't ask him. That's not my business. But he did tell me that, yes, Italians got brothels in Vegas. They run Vegas. The mafia. Again, listen, I'm not trying to step on your toes. In fact, it's legal out there. So if you want to have consensual sex with a prostitute, go ahead and go to Vegas, man. Whatever. It's Sin City, right? Now, here we go with the crazy fucking part. A lot of people ignore, and I'm about to offend a whole lot of people, but hey, it is what it is. Catholic Church accusations. Let me see if I got the article up. Let me see if I got the article up. Let me see. Yeah, it is in this one. Yeah, this is Boy Scouts. This shit wild, but we'll get to that in a minute. Hold up. Here we go. Scandals, compensation programs lead Catholic clergy sex abuse complaints to quadruple in 2019. Yes, you read that. That's, yes, Catholic clergy. If you don't know about Catholic priests, if you don't know about the Vatican by now, I'm happy to introduce you to their bullshit. The number of allegations of Catholic clergy sex abuse of minors more than quadrupled in 2019 compared to the average in the previous 5 years. U.S. church officials reported this week, in part the result of new church-run compensation programs for victims as well as survivors driven to come forward by several blah, blah, blah. I thought that was the numbers one. I know there's some numbers around here somewhere. Here we go. The report released Thursday by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops said the 2019 report, which covered July 2018 through June 2019, counted 4,434 allegations of clergy abuse against minors. That is in a year span. And if you think that 4,434 is all of them, you have lost your mind. That might be a quarter, maybe a third. I'm thinking easily, perhaps 10,000, but that's my guess. That number was 1,451 in 2018, 693 in 2017, 1,318 in 2016, and so forth. All those numbers are bullshit. It's not even the real fact, but it's just giving you evidence of like, yo, it's true. And it's true because, as you say, they're paying them out. They're paying the victims. It's real. They're basically saying, oh, shit, no contest. I guess we fucking did it. Right? They didn't do it. They would plead not guilty. Simple. Here we go. Listen, if you didn't know about the Boy Scouts, you're about to learn today, man. If you didn't know about the Boy Scouts, you're about to learn today. At least 82,000 have filed sex abuse claims against the Boy Scouts, legal team says. Now, the 82,000 was from its inception. And guess what? If I'm not mistaken, I think the article says something about the Boy Scouts was created in 1910. About 1910, 1911, I think. You can look it up yourself. Google when Boy Scouts was created. You'll see it was around the same fucking time the Mann Act was created. In fact, it was the Boy Scouts was created after the Mann Act. So it was as if these organizations created it to kind of subside the government and be like, oh, look, you know, Boy Scouts and da-da-da. Guess what? Read this shit. The Boy Scouts of America will be facing at least 82,000 claims of abuse as former Scouts submit filings against the bankruptcy-bound organization, said a spokeswoman for the legal team. I'm sorry, representing the alleged survivor. It's just funny. They talking about bankrupt. You fucking right, they're bankrupt. Who's sending their child there today? Who's sending their child to Boy Scouts after this shit? I didn't think so. There's a part in here that I really, really got to read. The cases against the Boy Scouts are no normal court proceeding. The organization filed for bankruptcy in February as hundreds of sexual abuse lawsuits were filed across the country, some of which alleged repeated fondling, Jesus, exposure to pornography, and forced anal or oral sex. This is wild. Here we go. I don't know why I didn't see that. So I don't know what foul, something like that. PFAU. Right here, foul estimated at the time that the number of claims would surpass those targeting the Catholic Church. Are you getting? I hope you guys get this. I hope you guys get this. So getting back to this. European Jews, Catholics, and the Vatican City. I can't get into the history of how these two are connected, but they are. The European Jews have disguised themselves as Catholics. If you don't believe me, just go to Google and type in a guy named Adam Weishaupt. I can't do everything for you. Damn, I'm doing too much. I didn't want this to be too long. I'm doing too goddamn much. Google, which is not always your best friend. Adam Weis. Oh, thank God he came up. Look at this. It says it right here in the front. I think is it the front? German philosopher, professor. Oh my God, I might have to go in and actually read it. Jesus, but I mean, look, you just have to read it. He was a European Jew turned Catholic priest. You have to believe me. It's right here. Do it yourself. You can go on Wikipedia. You go on whatever hell you want. Okay, I can't do everything. I got to get done. Let's go. Hollywood, California. Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein. Is that not one of the most Jewish names you probably have ever heard? And how many Disney child stars have came out and said, hey, I was abused? How many Disney Channel stars come out and got major drug issues? They don't have drug issues because they can't handle the fame. They got drug issues because they're being touched. And there's so much evidence. I cannot get into that. That's its own presentation. Disney Child Stars is its own presentation. It's its own lecture. So here we have Catholics, right? And the Catholics in America are predominantly where? Where are predominant Catholics? New York, ran by the Jews. California, right? Ran by who? Essentially the Chinese and the Catholic Church, right? And then you got the predominantly more the west side of Texas. So all these components, they fit in together. It's no coincidence. It all fits in. Chinese in California, specifically in San Francisco. That's the page that I wanted. Listen, God damn. This is major shit. I hope this is making sense because I've been talking too goddamn long now. Here we go. In December 2007, the Western New York Human Trafficking Task Force and Alliance, a coalition between FBI, U.S. Border Patrol, the Erie County and Niagara County Sheriff's Offices, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and victim services nonprofit organizations, such as the International Institute of Buffalo, cracked down on massage parlors suspected of selling sexual services. The raid of 4 parlors resulted in the arrest of the owners, Hong Kong native Chi Ngan Tsui and his wife Lin Hua Chong, the detention of 9 victims, and juicy gossip. Several local politicians had been instrumental in ensuring the proper zoning for the businesses and imported officials like judges, immigration officers, and police captains were among the club's customers. Judges, police officers, immigration officers. Bruh, the raid led to Lee Wan Chong, a 43-year-old Malaysian immigrant. Oh, he's Malaysian. All right. Pleaded guilty of sex trafficking. Oh, do I need to read the law? Do I need to read the law? You get my point. You get my point. I do like. Listen, I'm gonna keep it real, right? Because if I don't keep it real, it's not. Listen, I've gone to massage parlors on my life. I swear to. I've gone for massages, strictly just a massage. I didn't go in there for no bullshit. I remember I hurt my ankle one year, and I just needed a massage, bruh. Without not even 2-3 minutes gone by, she's asking me if I want favors. And I'm like, well, like, I want the massage first. Like, I kept it real. I was like, yo, I need the massage. But I'm not gonna get into my business. I'm factual evidence that this shit happens, man. It happens, right? So when you talk about the Chinese in California, aren't they predominantly Democrats, liberals? I lived in a place called Richmond District. It's in San Francisco. Not only is it heavily Asian, it's heavily Chinese. This is the parlor that I was at. It's no cap, it's no bullshit. The Chinese also have their hands in Hollywood. I can't get into that. It's another presentation. But are you seeing how this all intertwines? Yes? I went to a Catholic private school in San Francisco. All the ones that I named thus far are intertwined with one another, man. The Democrat, Jesus Christ, man. You liberals, man. It's really the problem. Democrats are associated heavily with the Chinese. Did they not just write up a Chinese bill for the anti-hate Chinese? Did they not? They've been in cahoots with Chinese, bro. Democrats have been in cahoots with Hollywood. They've been in cahoots with Catholics. They've been in cahoots with European Jews. All right. I didn't make myself clear. Here we go. The case had political dimensions, and its trial, set for the summer, became the subject of intense national political infighting. That spring, President Woodrow Wilson, who was not a helpful hand in this situation, and was certainly intertwined, allegedly intertwined with the European Jews, my opinion. Woodrow Wilson had appointed Drew's father, remember Anthony Caminetti, right? Caminetti, the same dude, to the top position in the Immigration Bureau, and he asked that his son's trial be delayed so that he could attend. If I'm not mistaken, Woodrow Wilson, he was a Democrat, was he? This is my shit. This is what I'm telling you. The Jews and Catholics run that shit. The Chinese are associated with the Democrats. That's how this works. When California Republicans charged that Drew Caminetti was benefiting from his family's close connections to Democrats in power, the Wilson administration caved and withdrew its support for a postponement of the trial. Do I need to keep reading? Not really. Caminetti was basically a dude. Drew Caminetti was basically a dude who committed a violent act, a sexual act. Can't remember if it was underage girl or not, but that was the case, right? Listen to this quote. Representative James Mann, Republican from Illinois, the author of the White Slave Traffic Act, declared, "I shed my tears for those who have been led astray, who have been debauched through fear and force. I shed my tears on behalf of the innocent, while you Democrats endeavor to protect the guilty." According to the narrative asserted by Mann, the pro the the prosecuting attorney and others, young women like Marsha Warrington and Lola Norris, needed to be protected from the predatory and selfish men like Maury Diggs and Drew Clemenetti, who set aside their respectable masculine roles as faithful husbands and fathers to adopt the disreputable role of philanderers and debauchers of innocence. Republicans have been calling them out. It runs deep. It runs deep. I cannot get into this, man. I cannot get into all this. I don't want to start calling out names because the same motherfuckers today, your president, your vice president, they're all associated with this shit. It's not even a question. You just have to do the research. I don't know if that was convincing enough. I don't know if I read enough. There was definitely a part in here that I damn sure had to read. I don't know why I missed out on it. Hold up, because I'm definitely not leaving y'all. In 1899, one writer connected white prostitutes' experiences with debt bondage and brothels with African American slavery when she declared, "There is a slave trade in this country, and it is not black folks this time, but little white girls 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years of age. And they are snatched out of our arms and from our Sabbath schools and from our communion tables." I'm leaving y'all with that. I had to read the shit out of the book. Listen, double check my work. Double check my work. If you saw anything that I thought that was capping here or I'm bullshitting, double check my work. I need to get the hell out of here. All right. It's too long. I'm probably going to cut some of it out, obviously. But here you go. That's the case. So Google Charles Lucky Luciano. It'll explicitly tell you he was Italian. And look at all these. I showed you 2 other articles already. And then you just got to get the book. Listen, that's the case. Again, I don't want no problems. The cartel, the mafia. I'm not even trying to stop y'all. I'm just putting information out there. All right. So with that said, take that for what you will and have at it. Do what you want with the information. Peace. Be good, kids. Be real good.